Hey guys, Will King here, High Cotton Homes in Florence, Alabama, and today on the Build Show, we're talking about something a little bit different than our normal. Behind me is the historic Mapleton house. Now this house was built in 1826 right here in Florence. We bought this house a few months back, and we're starting to do a little bit of renovation and preservation work on this project. And we're going to be specifically talking about the crawl space today and how we're going to manage that going forward. So let's go down there and take a look. So guys, before we go down to the crawl space, I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of the layout of this house. So I mentioned earlier, it was originally built in 1826 and as a two-story home. And we're standing kind of in the foyer of that original structure. Now, sometime in the early 1900s, there was two additions made to this house, one on the west side, one on the east side. The west side's actually over a crawl space. East side of the home addition is actually over a slab. But so I guess to show you that and tell you that we're dealing with half basement, half crawl space as far as what we're doing downstairs. Now, the other thing that's kind of funny about this house is that it's been vacant for 10 years or a little bit longer as far as anyone living here, except for a really escape artist raccoon that we can't seem to catch. But we're hoping that through this crawl space mitigation that we actually are able to rid him of the house and get him out of here so we can seal it back up tight and keep it clean for the future. So now we're standing down here in the basement of this house, and so you can tell this is kind of the mechanical area behind me. But I think before we talk about the mechanicals, you got to think to yourself, like, this house was built 200 years ago, so 2 centuries ago. There was obviously no plumbing, no electrical, no HVAC equipment. Long before that, and so you can imagine over the years that stuff's been added, as you can kind of see behind me, and it's kind of a mess. But I will say, being that old, I've been in houses much newer, built in the 80s and 90s, as a crawl space that were in much worse shape than this one is. But I think one thing to point out is that, obviously they didn't build a house tight back then. Even if they were able to close up the crawl space or basement area, they would have no way to keep it dry. But one thing that's different then versus now is that if you notice the floor joists in this house above me, they're actually 3 inches wide and 1 foot tall. Now they are on 24-inch center, but they're old growth hardwood, heavy 3x12 floor joists. So you talk about standing up to moisture and humidity swings, obviously they've done a really good job. And I think we all know that modern day framing construction or framing components will not hold up the same as what we're seeing today. Now going forward, I guess our plan of attack here, we're going to be removing all the insulation that's overhead, all the ductwork, which we've already started. You can see on the furnace, we've actually started pulling some of the trunk lines out yesterday. We're going to remove all this trunk lines, some of the electrical, most of the plumbing, all the insulation, which, by the way, I'm not a big fan of insulation in the floor system. I know at some point this was their attempt to help hold heat inside the house, but as you probably already know, it's also a huge moisture trap in a vented crawl space. So it's not uncommon to see fiberglass bats starting to sag in a crawl space that's ventilated like this. So we're going to remove all that, and then next up is we're going to actually start, spraying the walls with closed cell foam. All the dirt in the crawl space area, we're going to rake that down nice and smooth, install a new mat and moisture membrane around the piers, seal that with closed cell foam, and then shoot the wall. So we're definitely going to do a follow-up video to show that. There'll also be 2 dehumidifiers in this crawl space basement area helping to maintain the dryness down here. So all that's to come, and hopefully, I guess the goal here is to keep this nice and dry, keep it sealed up, and help our HVAC equipment that we're installing next just to work more efficiently and then keep the upstairs of this house more comfortable. All right, so we talk about crawl spaces and sealed crawl spaces and why we do that. So I want to make sure we cover that in this video. Now, a few years back, actually since I've started building, we decided to go to sealed crawl spaces only, because here in the South we have crazy high humidity. And in the summertime, as most of you know, that can be very problematic for a vented crawl space. Now, because you think about high humidity, 95% in Alabama here in the summertime is not uncommon. And if we think about the science of just bringing all that into a ventilated crawl space, that's not good for your house, especially given a certain temperature and you hit that dew point, you're even going to have condensation and it'll look like your ductwork is raining inside your house. So it's just very problematic when you think about even the air quality in your house. So you start growing mold on your joist and inside your crawl space. 50% of the air that you breathe inside your house actually comes from your crawl space. So that's the reasons that we do that, and we achieve it by obviously a nice sealed moisture membrane on top of the dirt to the foundation walls, to the piers, and in that with a nice insulation actually on the foundation walls to give you that R value. And then you typically have to have a dehumidifier to help keep it at that set point of RH. And we typically aim for 50%. That's always the target for us to maintain in our crawl spaces. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video and getting to see inside this really cool house behind me and seeing the crawl space mess and the challenges that we face there. But I think it's neat when you look at this house just from a historical standpoint and seeing how building science has evolved over the last 200 years. We build houses now really airtight and insulated well, and 200 years ago it's quite the opposite. And so I think that goes to show, though, why these houses still stand today is because those walls are so open. As water and moisture got in, it was able to dry from both sides very easily. So it's just neat to be able to compare how craftsmen built homes like this and how we're building them today, and just seeing the differences and how we got to where we are. But guys, I look forward to shooting another video of the crawl space as we get closer to completion on this project. And I'm also secretly hoping that Brent Hull makes his way to Florence soon so we can shoot some really cool content for you guys. But just remember, iron sharpens iron, so keep grinding, keep watching these videos, and we'll see you right here on The Build Show.